Good afternoon. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Monday. All right, now the best start to the week for the index. It's worst slump yet since January 29. Local shares plummeted 2.6% today, the worst fall in Asia, sending the index back to the 6,500 level at 6,552.46 to be exact. This as investors let go of local equities as COVID-19 cases surged to new highs earlier in the day. The main index even dropping as much as 3.6% to 6,489, but managed to pare back those losses, triggering the sell-off. An average of 4,817 cases per day, at least through Sunday, the country's biggest three-day moving average in new daily infections. This further puts in limbo chances of an economic recovery 1 year into the implementation of lockdowns here, not just in Metro Manila, but in the entirety of Luzon and across the country as well. You have Lex Azurin of AB Capital Securities saying investors are liquidating their holdings as a resurgence of cases and renewed mobility restrictions hamper prospects of economic recovery. Today marks the start of a uniform curfew across the National Capital Region that's going to be from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. More cities in Metro Manila also imposing localized or granular lockdowns. Quezon City, for one, has put in place a liquor ban starting today until March 31st, as well as a closure of gyms, spas, and internet cafes. Now, other cities in like Pasay and Manila also limiting movement in a number of barangays and areas. This as inoculation remains slow with only 193,000 doses of the 1.2 million vaccine shots on stock having been administered for the past 2 weeks. But while economic activity seems to be slowing down, you have flag carrier Philippine Airlines restarting international flights to key cities like the US, Canada, Japan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, as well as other Asian cities. Palace said that it also restored most of its domestic and inter-island routes. It's after focusing on repatriation and cargo transport since the pandemic started. According to COO Gilbert Santamaria, he says that PAL will stay aloft. That bit of news, though, came in after the close. But prior to that, PAL capped off the day at 6 pesos and 17 centavos a share. That's down by 2.5%. Now, looking at our leaderboard, all members, save for 3 stocks here, ending the day in the red. Aboitiz Power, one of 2 gainers here, as they earmarked 23 billion pesos for capex this year to complete their Bataan coal-fired power plant and entry into the battery storage market. The power player is up 2.6% to 25 pesos and 65 centavos a share. Now, 3 stocks losing over 5%, with Ayala Corporation dragging the index the most here. This despite its subsidiary AC Energy and its partner UPC Solar Asia Pacific reaching a financial close for its 100 megawatt Sitara solar farm in India. The $67 million US dollar project is estimated to start power generation by the first half of 2021. AC Energy ends the day with a 5.4% decline to 733 apiece. Andrew Tan Company's Megaworld and Alliance Global also sinking over 5%. Alliance Global now at 10 pesos and 32 centavos a piece, while Megaworld is at 3 pesos and 35 centavos a share. But apart from these stocks across the board, it's a bloodbath for the main index. But in the all share, some stocks also ending the day in the red. DM Wenceslao for one. That's after the property player reported lower profits for the year. Net income at 2.13 billion pesos. That's down from by 10% from 2.37 billion pesos the year prior. The leasing business proving to be a solid source of recurring income for the property player. Consolidated revenues also falling by 22% to 2.73 billion pesos. That's despite a 37% increase in its residential business. 72% of the property players' revenue still coming from rentals from land and buildings. DM Wenceslao ended the day down 1.3% to 6 pesos and 80 centavos a share. All right, with cases reaching new highs, is it time to rethink the further reopening of the economy, especially in Metro Manila? What might this mean for businesses? To know about their plans given the new surge, we have with us Trade Undersecretary Ireneo Vizmonte. Good afternoon, Usec.
Good afternoon, Jesser, and good afternoon to your listeners of your show.
All right, sir. So in just a matter of weeks, the narrative has changed completely from shifting to a more lenient quarantine to imposing lockdowns. What's the DTI's plans here? Is still after safely reopening the economy?
Yeah, of course, we want the continue to balance between health and opening up business, or shall we say, blending the two. And as of now, we know that there is a declaration of curfew, but take note that even with curfew, upwards or authorized person outside the residence are allowed to go out and continue to work. Takeouts or these e-commerce, the food delivery are allowed to render their services 24 hours. So the idea is really to continue providing the trabajo at negosyo for the MSMEs and the workers in Metro Manila, particularly in Metro Manila. We know we have already MGCQ in most part of the Philippines, and we're hoping that before the surge, we're hoping that Metro Manila will also be under this MGCQ classification. Unfortunately, we're not, but we with the sentiments right now, we know there is a slow or poor confidence, business confidence, or consumer confidence to go out. But we also know that workers continue to report to work. Services and goods are available, and workers are allowed to go out. Meanwhile, there is, of course, that hope that vaccine will soon be coming.
Sir, do I take it to mean that the DTI is still pushing for a shift to MGCQ? If not this month, then at least next month.
DTI, of course, it depends on the indicators when to allow MGCQ. Of course, it's not a DTI decision. We have these indicators when to allow already or to move to GCQ. But what we want and what we are trying to communicate to the public is for us to have this consciousness to wear mask, physical distancing, and take note and make sure we are observing good ventilation in our respective workplaces. Then other minimum health protocols. That's the only way to open the economy. You have the minimum health protocols in place, and we allow people to work.
Okay, should we be fearing for a region-wide closure in establishments? I mean, that's already happening in Quezon City. You have it in gyms and spas. Is this something that we should at least be expecting in the entirety of NCR?
I don't think there'll be a situation like that. We think that with 1 year, with us, the last 1 year, we're already trained. The people are already trained to wear the mask and observe physical distancing, especially those going to work and those going out. So I think we cannot, the country cannot afford anymore a stricter lockdown.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are also proposals for a 2-week lockdown. That's already being floated. Is the DTI ready for this, and what might this mean for MSMEs should this plan push through?
Actually, the lockdown is being already implemented. We call the granular lockdown. So, but even in a granular lockdown, workers are allowed to work and establishments are allowed to open.
Okay, just as you were speaking, Usec Vizmonte, you have reports now that today's cases have reached 5,404. That beats the record that we did see, I think, over the weekend. Given that, sir, how do you try to balance that? I mean, you did mention earlier that the goal here is to at least still maintain the reopening of establishments while at the same time ensure that the public is actually observing health protocols. What exactly is the DTI planning to at least ensure that protocols are being observed?
We just have to continue monitoring the establishment that they are following the minimum health protocols, particularly those most at risk. These are the establishments that are where you are removing your mask or your face shield, for example, the dining restaurants. So we just have to continue monitoring this regularly and ensure that these establishments are following the rules of we have set in relation to minimum health protocols.
Sure. Are we seeing recovery here for the MSME sector after that heavy beating last year?
Yeah.
What are the
You know,
here about our MSMEs?
DTI has conducted already around 4 surveys for the last 4 quarters, and at this point, result of the survey showed that only 4% are still closed, and around 56% are partially operational, and the rest are fully operational. So we
Okay.
don't want to. We want to maintain this level so that really our workers and businesses can really move forward even with this pandemic.
But do you expect that level to at least be sustained given this new rise in infections?
If we have this level of understanding of the cases, monitoring of the minimum health protocols, the contact tracing in our workplaces, making sure that we know the cases in our respective workplaces. I think we can maintain this level of operation even with this surge.
But may I know as well, sir, what sectors have somehow recovered at least from the MSMEs?
Of course, we know that from the beginning, e-commerce has been there, and in fact, they expanded. So maybe you are aware of that. So these are the e-commerce. Of course, we know that the badly affected industries are tourism related, as they are the last allowed to open. These are category 4 sectors. Essentially, these are the MSMEs that are badly affected by this pandemic.
Okay, now lastly, sir, does the current surge in cases warrant a Bayanihan III? And is the DTI willing to push for its passage as well to aid MSMEs?
Any support that will aid the agency, DTI will be supportive, whether it's Bayanihan III or any other means that will help MSMEs. DTI will be in support of this.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Again, that's Trade Undersecretary Ireneo Vizmonte. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jes, sir, and good afternoon to everyone.
Small and medium enterprises are bearing the brunt of the extended lockdown. This is why Marikina's 2nd District Representative Stella Kimbo is pushing for a third stimulus package, otherwise known as Bayanihan III. But there seems to be some opposition to it. For more on this story, let's go to Regina Lay, our business and economy editor for One News. Reg?
Hey, Jess, it's good to see you again. It's good to be back on air. That's right. As we heard from yesterday's One News town hall, Representative Kimbo is all fired up about a Bayanihan III bill, which she wants to see through Congress. So just give me 2 seconds to recap the details, okay? We're talking about 420 billion pesos is what she's asking for, is what the group is asking for. And that comes up to about 1,000 pesos of ayuda per head for every needy household, but not just the neediest families. Also, we're talking ayuda to displaced workers and those who work for struggling MSMEs. That's part of this new package. What's interesting as well is that under Bayanihan III, there's a portion that's set aside for heavily impacted sectors like agriculture. We know, for example, that hog raisers have been hit with a double whammy, right? We're talking about COVID, we're talking about African swine fever. They've had to deal with a lot of things over the last year. And that's really what's pushed up prices in the past few months. Now, according to Congressman Kimbo, the problem is not just that Bayanihan two wasn't enough, but a portion of it, specifically about 55 billion pesos, is sitting idle, or in her words, natutulog. And that's because this is the amount that was set aside for MSMEs to borrow from, except no one is borrowing because everyone's too scared at this point in time, right? We're kind of all in a holding pattern. Everyone's trying to wait and see because who knows when the economy is gonna pick up again, right? And as you were just reporting just now, 5,404 cases today. We haven't seen those numbers since probably August last year. The last thing I want to point out about this is that Albay is also in favor of Bayanihan III. And after all, he is the tax chief in the lower house. So that's what they're trying to push for in Congress.
All right, at least Congresswoman Kimbo has an ally on that front. And she lays out a very compelling argument here, but it doesn't sound like everyone's on the same page. Why is that?
Well, because this is a narrative, right? So there's got to be an opposition, and here is where the conflict begins. Because according to Kimbo, the House is ready to push through this Bayanihan III, and it has the Speaker's support. So in effect, it's a Speaker's bill, and they have the numbers to back it up. The Senate, though, is on an entirely different page. In fact, amongst the senators that we've spoken to, most of them say that they don't think a third stimulus package is necessary at all. Senator Sherwin, for example, says that all the funding that we need for this post-COVID recovery period, that should be covered by the regular 2021 budget anyway. And his worry is that if we push through another stimulus package, then that's going to derail the regular budget, and that might affect the allocation for the regular budget as well. So it gets a little bit complicated from there, which is probably why he's trying to take a more conservative approach to this. The executive branch, and here I'm talking about NEDA, says Bayanihan III may also not be necessary. Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua himself says that the best way to alleviate economic pain is to just open up the economy fully, right? Of course, again, that's complicated by the fact that we're seeing a surge lately, and there's a lot more localized lockdowns in the past few days. So other reports in the media I wanted to point out say that Senate President Tito Soto saying that he's not in favor of Bayanihan III. The bottom line to this story is that Congress wants one, Senate wants another thing, and if the Senate is to be believed, the executive branch also wants no Bayanihan III. So which again throws into question the future of the stimulus package that the lower house is trying to push through. Jes?
All right. It seems as though it's a Congress is putting up the lone fight there for a Bayanihan III. Thank you for those
Complicated.
insights. Regina Lay, One News Business and Economic Editor. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. The NEDA headquarters in Pasig City is now placed under lockdown until Sunday after a rise in confirmed COVID-19 cases within the agency. In a memo obtained by the Philippine Star, NEDA employees were tasked to shift to remote work in order to prevent further transmission as confirmed cases rose to 6 this month from just 2 in previous months. At least one of those cases had been traced to the staff of Acting Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua, who had tested negative for the virus as of March 2. He says the infected staff had no close contact with him. Now, Chua recently made headlines for proposing a nationwide shift to MGCQ weeks before infections started rising and more new variants were recorded. Metro Pacific Hospitals, the country's biggest private hospital group, has started vaccinating over 13,000 of its workers as of this month. Metro Pacific Hospital Holdings says this accounts for more than 50% of its workforce. Over 10,000 more workers are expected to be inoculated soon. The government is prioritizing the vaccination of health workers, followed by senior citizens in its inoculation program. Metro Pacific's logistics arm, Metropack Movers, also led the transport and storage of the initial batch of COVID-19 vaccines from Sinovac and AstraZeneca. And those are the biggest news this trading day, March 15, 2021. Catch Business World Live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.